Do you think that DOGE is absolutely necessary for India? DOGE is the Department of Government Efficiency, which is something the Trump administration is coming up with, which will be headed by Elon Musk, and his number two will be Vivek Ramaswamy. Department of Government Efficiency. So its function will be to recommend changes in the bureaucracy, in the structure of the bureaucracy, maybe doing some cuts in the bureaucracy, trimming down the fat and getting rid of superfluous bureaucrats who are not necessary. So essentially, the objective is to con- make the American bureaucracy and governance leaner, meaner, and more effective. Get rid of everything that's not needed. There are lots of redundant bureaucratic positions who are just sitting there, earning, um, eating the people's money, essentially, right, at the expense of the taxpayer. So much of that is not needed, and that's what DOGE will get rid of. Is it necessary for India? Absolutely, it's necessary. Is it possible for India? Probably not. Why do I say it's not possible? Is it necessary? Absolutely. Oh, the Indian bureaucracy, it's this gigantic organism that runs everything, and they essentially are the decision makers on the ground, and up to very high levels. The government of India relies on the bureaucracy for the implementation of policies and programs, and governance, and the delivery of governance. So on the ground, the governance is delivered by bureaucrats, your local collector, your local whatever, the corporators and whatnot, and the whole system. Corporators are elected, I think, not sure, but all the governance is delivered. All the ground level work is done by bureaucrats, and even planning and all that. And the bureaucracy is immense, and we have certain laws in India that make it impossible to sack bureaucrats. You can be suspended, but you can't be sacked. There's a huge difference between suspension and dismissal. And we have certain clauses in the constitution or laws or wherever, I don't remember where, that make it almost impossible to dismiss a bureaucrat, sack him from the job. You can't. At worst, you can suspend a bureaucrat. The suspension is a temporary measure. So and so bureaucrat was suspended and people become happy. That person was suspended, not sacked, not dismissed, right? The suspension is a temporary thing. It is always eventually undone. And at worst, you can transfer somebody from one place to another, but you can't sack. As a disciplinary punitive measure, when somebody should have been sacked, they would be either suspended or transferred. So we have an enormous bureaucracy that is a essentially self-governing thing, and it is to a very large extent unaccountable. I'm sure there are good bureaucrats. There are some really good bureaucrats also, very patriotic, very capable people, no question about it. But overall, if you look at the average bureaucrat, I know what what the quality is like. It's not very good. So we certainly could do with restructuring, with cutting down, with trimming down the fat. With We could certainly use a leaner, meaner governance machine, bureaucratic machine. It's definitely a necessity for India, but it's almost an impossibility to do. Because if you change the laws and make it possible for the government to sack bureaucrats, then all the bureaucrats will go on strike. Then the whole nation comes to a standstill. They will stand in solidarity with one another, right? And so on. So these are very deep-rooted problems. Without a fundamental restructuring of everything in India, not much will change, unfortunately.